of the consultation and sets out at page 28 in a flow diagram the proposed process for allocating licences should they become available under a random selection process. If I could point out to members that within that flow chart there is an arrow to the right following on from the last box. Can I just advise you that that line is superfluous and should not be there. The arrow goes back up to the top. Should there be any variance to this process set out, then we would come back to the committee. Should anything arise that steps outside of the process that is presented before you. And I would ask therefore or invite if there are any questions relating to the process and that is proposed within the report. The details, as I said, regarding the consultation are held within the report.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions? Councillor Watts.
That last remark about superfluous arrow, that would seem to be at odds with what it actually says in the final few lines of the preceding page on page 27. I would assume it would simply go back to the remaining applicants and carry out the random check again if those applicants had qualified, as you might say. There'd be no need to go back to the total re-advertising and all the rest of it or go further.
Yes, that's correct. That's the intention. Yes.
Thank you, Jay. It was just a little bit disappointing that only 6 people responded.
Yes.
Does that mean that generally the taxi drivers are happy with the process? Do you think?
Obviously, the consultation was there, and we did actually write to every licence holder informing them of the consultation. And likewise, officers were disappointed with the response, taking into consideration, obviously, that the consultation was out there for 3 months as well. It is disappointing. I think it may be that obviously those that do have licences are obviously content that they have licences, and it may be that when it is issues that actually directly affect licence, that may affect the licence that they actually have, we may get more of a response. But whilst consultation does not always render a massive response, that is particularly disappointing.
Okay. Councillor Watts.
Thank you, Chair. Having looked through all this, it looks reasonably correct in what we do. One major item I'd like to see put in, and it maybe we could add to it, is a time limit for when applying for a licence. I don't think you've got a time limit. Can we apply for a time limit? As suggested by licence.
There is reference to the fact that obviously we would invite applications and they would be to be received within 28 days from when the advert goes out. Applications, obviously in advertising it, we would set out what the criteria is for licence a Hackney carriage vehicle, and those that come back that propose that they could meet that criteria then go forward to the random selection. And the process does detail that the successful applicant is then given 28 days in which to present a vehicle to be licensed, so that there is a time limit in that respect. So if somebody doesn't present a vehicle within the 28 days, then it would go as been indicated, that it would go back to the random selection, so those still remaining within the process. A further applicant will be drawn from those applications. So there is a limit for those who put themselves forward and are drawn out to present their vehicle within 28 days.
Okay, Councillor.
So I take it at that stage, once the 28 days come, it's null and void, and we start proceedings again, i.e. looking for a new licence.
The proposed is that if there are any remaining applicants, I mean, it's very difficult to assess at this stage. For example, if there was a licence available, we could have 10 people apply for that, we could have 2 people, we could have 1, we could have none. So, dependent upon that, so if there was 1 licence and 3 people, for example, applied, 1 is drawn out from the random selection process, but then doesn't present a vehicle, then further name would be drawn from the 2 remaining, and so on. If that process then got to a stage where there were no names remaining, we would then bring it back to this committee.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question?
Yes, thank you.
Any more questions? I'm going to pop this with you now. Please comment on that. Go on.
It's to do with the selection process itself. I personally do feel that we should use an electronic random selector as opposed to like bingo balls or whatever to actually select this process. And we can do it on the screen so that it's open, transparent to all who wish to take part and apply for our certificate. So that would be something I personally suggest here.
Councillor, would councillors want to do this at the GP or the taxi family, which means more better than this commission? I think all that should be here to be at the taxi family. Okay? Oh,
Probably sounds fascinating. I was only going to say that possibly practice the trade, we didn't have a huge trade crisis. Perhaps a lot of this had already previously been discussed with the trade prior to the consultation, and the consultation in part was to see if there was any wider interest other than not just the trade. So the fact that the trade, perhaps we didn't get a huge response is possibly because we had already previously had quite a lot of discussion with the trade. Just that's it.
I think there has been a lot of consultation through various committees. Okay, so we agree on that and take on board councillor points. Okay.
Chair, for the minutes then, if I could summarise that the random selection process will be made using a computer programme, correct? And that it would take place at a meeting of the licensing panel.
Okay, agree? Agree. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is for members to consider a request to amend the Hackney Carriage tariff. What members are asked to consider this evening is appendix to the report, which is details of an amendment to the tariff, which has been discussed with the trade and in fact is put forward by the trade. In considering the tariff that is put forward before you, the process is such that what you would be agreeing tonight would be subject to a public advert, and is then a consultation period of 14 days for both the trade and members of the public to respond to the tariff that is proposed. If there were any representations made in respect to that proposal, then a further report would be brought back to this committee in November for your further consideration. If there are no representations received as a result of the public advert, then the tariff would be implemented accordingly. I am advised that today a further proposal has been presented to Mark Calvert, who's the team leader on Hackney Carriage licences, and that Mr Cummins is here this evening to his comments to you regarding the tariff.
Do you want to make your comments? We don't show you part of the consultation process. Do you want to know that, Councillor?
Yeah, Chair, I mean, I do feel that something should be had is proposals put in front of us for agreeing to go to consultation, and to have something just dumped on us literally this time of night, I just think it's not acceptable, and it can be dealt with as part of the consultation process.
Yeah, just to explain to members, we only got notified before about this. So none of the members, to be fair to them, really got no information on this. I mean, I like your comments if you want to on it, but you know, really, you should have had this right before. Maybe you should think about formally consultation period in 14 days. Would you accept that?
Not really, no.
Well, ask members then.
Could I?
Do members want to ask finance? Go on, mate. Finance.
Chair, if I may just point out, there is a typographical error in the table while Mr. Cummins is taking his seat. Page 38,
Yes.
3 miles line, I do apologise, it is simply a typographical error, and the third proposed would increase to £6.60.
Okay, there are comments you have needed. Firstly, the reason why we submitted a further increase, and the one we just picked up, is that 3.1 is in fact incorrect, where it says the proposal submitted by the Hackney Carriage representatives is
Sorry about this. Don't continue.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's 3.1 on page 29. The proposal submitted by the Hackney Carriage representatives is not to the PCO, stroke CFR. We in fact voted to adopt it, and through the chair, I'd like to both congratulate and apologise Mrs. Cowles, because unfortunately it's been a subject of some vigorous debate, to say the least. We actually adopted this in March, but there's been various people emailing Mrs. Cowles saying, no, we can't get some new money. Unfortunately, the secretary has got two intractable positions, one of no increase and one was an outlandish increase, and it's been, and these positions have held since the economy, where we've seen falling demand and higher wages and higher costs. So what we really want to do is introduce PCO. Now what's being offered here isn't PCO. PCO is 5.2. So we wanted something near to that, just to stop all the arguing in the next year and the year after. So that's really what we want, is just to implement PCO, which the issue is about 5.2. I'll just explain to the members, every year for the last 30 years, the Property Carriage Office, which is now transferred to London, publish a formula for taxi fares based on cost of living, and if it's 5.2, it's obviously 5.2, and if it's 0, it's 0, if it's in negative, they actually put the fares in. That's like happened in 30 years. But we think it's a really good idea, and it will stop a lot of the officers' time being wasted by spurious fair proposals from people who propose to represent this, that and the other. So I would like the chair to take this on board, that this proposal which I put in is near to PCO.
And good luck, that is part of the consultation process.
Well, the problem with that venture is that it was part of the consultation process. That then brings us out to when's the next TP?
The next meeting is the 7th of November.
So we are then sort of put this stuff against Christmas, really, and if there's any problem with them. And so we'll be looking at the year before we haven't realised we haven't really given it 2 years. And the nightmare we haven't realised before. Since the nightmare last had a rise.
Will you make a decision on this? Just
if it may insist just on the references made by Mr. Cummins, I think firstly, to assist you, I think it may help if he explains who we are, because this is references to we, and also he said that there are
you want to answer Margaret's question?
But it's not so much my question, it's just to assist members and as I know who Mr. Consultation, but if you could explain to members who we are. Not we are.
Some of you know something. Well, we is United Union Gas, North West Stroke 584.
Okay, Councillor, do you want to ask Mr. Cummins anything, or do you want to ask Margaret?
Chair, sorry about that. I mean, I think it might help members. You made a general thing that's North West branch. Obviously, this is in respect to Wirral.
Yes.
So,
Thank you, Chair. On page 29, section 3.3, that a proposal is submitted by Hackney trade representatives. So just to make it clear, it's other Hackney trade representatives who are not represented by Mr. Cummins. Is that correct? And I was just wanted to ask Mr. Cummins, your reference to 5.2% rise, is that rises in the cost of living in London or national?
It's the PCO stroke TFL is actually it's to the Hackney trade, so they look at the cost of tires and fuel.
In London or in the country?
It's the cost of tire in London is the same as in the Northwest, and probably the same as fuel as well.
No, that's not. Absolutely.
Okay, Councillor Jones?
I think Mr. Cummins has answered some of my question, but can I just comment that in this day of wage freezes and all this, 4, 5 and 6% increases is huge, especially when people who are on benefits are going to be finding their incomes coming down an awful lot. And I would like to see what the national tariff is, not just the London one, but if there's a different rate for the rest of the country.
Yes, certainly. There is a publication called Carriage publishes tariffs.
What does it say?
Carriage publishes tariffs, national tariffs, and it's used by just about everything in the.
If you assist, if you could tell it on the password along with the
We are something like 48 pence below the national average of 5.24. We also are in the third lowest order. No.
For 282 hours of 363.
That's 363,000. We have had a wage increase for 2 years, and as I said, fuel has gone from, it's only been up to it was 86 pence when we last had it at a third increase. It's now £1.50. So it's, where I understand that people have got wage increases, we've actually had a wage reduction.
Sorry, can I just come back on that, please, and check. Only to say that I do appreciate that taxi drivers do need to make a living, and I think, you know, if we can have a look at the national tariffs or whatever that you're talking about, it would be helpful.
Okay. Any more questions? Councillor Boyd?
Thank you, Chair. We've been negotiating, as far as I can see, with one body of Hackney and Carriage. At the present moment, until, and I'm not being disrespectful to anyone, until you present yourself as a unit, as one, we're in a predicament whether we agree with one or t'other. And I would say that our officers have worked extremely hard going through this, and notification as from last night, this morning, I'm not saying as an individual body, but the negotiation has been with a body of Hackney drivers for pricing. And until you present yourself, and as I say, no disrespect to you, until you present yourself as one, it's very difficult for our licensing officers and so on to try and make a positive decision, because at some time or other, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and we've got our arguments with one or t'other.
Chair, if it does assist, this report was prepared on the basis that all the trade reps had agreed what was put into the report, and the members will be aware that there is a joint consultative committee of trade representatives, and it is that table that is put before you. We were advised that all the trade reps were in agreement with what was being put forward, and as
Just to come back to that, you are saying that you are speaking as one voice, but you can't be because no one's been talking to our licensing officers and so on. So I'm sorry. I agree with you entirely that you speak in one body, but it's your body. If you can represent all the taxi drivers out there, and I'm not being disrespectful in any matter whatsoever, our officers have been talking to Hackney cabs and so on. And I'm sorry, present yourself as one, and I would accept everything you're saying.
Sorry, can I come back to that? With the greatest of respect, if you ask 300 taxi drivers what the fares should be, you get 300 different, and you wouldn't go anywhere. It's a wee bit like what you do, is that you represent a constituency. They don't all agree with you, and you've got to take some sort of common ground based on majority, really. Well, you can't just do everybody individually, otherwise you won't go anywhere.
Okay. Can I just ask Councillor Ashton and we'll come back to you. Councillor Williams.
The officers have read this report and produced a set of proposed tariff increases based on the discussions that have happened at the JCC, and the proposed tariff increases are what were agreed by all the people who attend the JCC. And
this is what we're trying to say. I'm sorry, but what we're trying to point out is that we all agreed on the formula to stop all the arguments, and it says that we agreed with the formula, and the formula that's coming isn't what we agreed on. That's the point we want. Thank you.
well, I think this paperwork is produced a considerable period of time before last night, and I think last night, near midnight, it's far too late, the night before the committee, to come up with an alternative set of proposals when the officers genuinely believe that these are proposals that the JCC has agreed to go forward to the General Licensing Committee tonight.
Sorry, can I come in there? Sadly, when we get the GP and read it, you read that there was a mistake, so then I have then got to go back to my branch and say that there's a mistake. Vote on it, and then I've got to contact all the other representatives. We've got to have a meeting, so there is a time. You know, I'm not here representing myself, I'm here representing you.
Right. Before you Councillor Williams in, Lauren wants to say.
Yeah, I must point out to Chair and to the committee that we do have an email from Mr. Carriage, who knows he's here this evening, who says, I write to inform you that we accept the tariff increase proposals outlined under item 4 as agreed by all trade reps, and I wish to take the tariff increase forward as proposed. So that is somebody saying that all trade reps are agreed with the proposal in the report is taken forward. As I say, there is still an opportunity. I mean, all those are being asked to consider this evening is whether, if indeed you consider that it is appropriate to advertise a fare increase or not, and if it was that you want to go forward and advertise a fare increase, that it is the one in the report that is advertised.
Okay. Well, that's Councillor Williams.
I was just going to ask how long it has been that the consideration has been given to these matters, that the consultation process has been going on through the JCC, and also the email that you referred to, when was that received by you?
The consultation has been going on for some considerable time. In terms of, it's not a matter for officers. I mean, it is a matter for the trade to ask us as officers to prepare a report for you to consider. And it's not something that we're bringing to you per se, because it's not for us to increase the fares. It's the trade saying that they want an increase, and we facilitate that process by doing the report. The email referred to is dated the 22nd of September.
I know the process. I know the taxi drivers bring forward these proposals, and the officers have to produce this report. It just seems to me that the organisation has been lax in not looking at the report sooner and drawing attention to the problem. Because how long has it been in the public domain? If that email was sent and it was recognised as a
to speak it, because people have asked some questions and kept it. Okay? Is that all right? Well, Kelly, do you want to?
Yeah, the
Just tell them how to do representatives, because we've got some new ones.
this on chair.
Right, if you just press the button in front of you, white button.
I'm on there. Yeah, this is a couple of points that I'm not going over here, but one I did write that email, correct? Two, since that email was sent, that I got in touch with me over this, because the actual PCO, Public Carriage Office, is a form that is based out on everything in this country, basically from inflation, based on people's wages,
has been received this morning by Mrs. Calvert, and therefore members do not have the details of what you are proposing for them. What they have are the details within the report. So on that basis, it would be a matter for the chair in terms of how it goes forward. But I think it's having that understanding that members do not have those details before them, because the massive figures that were received by Mrs. Calvert were in fact not as comprehensible as what is put before the report. And a piece of paper, I understand, has been handed to Mrs. Calvert this evening, which again doesn't go into the detail of the tariff that you may have an understanding of, but it's not detailed in the way that is detailed within the report.
Right. The thing is here, that members have referred to, we've just gone and sent this out to consultation, and members are fully to what has been said now, so they're taken. So would members want to adjourn at this stage? Or don't you Fares to?
I think this is a bit of a red herring. The discussions that have happened within the trade since the 22nd of September are for the trade, not for this committee or for a JCC meeting. If, as Margaret says, the information was given to the trade in August, I know from having attended JCC meetings personally that this tariff discussion has gone on for some months. It's just simply not fair to the officers of the committee to present them with an alternative perspective on the day of the committee. And as members, we've had no chance to look at the information anyway. So I think we should not adjourn. It should go back to the JCC and then come to the next committee in November.
Okay, well, Councillor Baldwin to the Councillor Fraser.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, I understand exactly what Councillor Blackman is saying. I mean, we have a proposal in front of us. The way the trade can actually make representation is by waiting for the outset and taking part in that consultation, explaining fully what they want. We would then look at it in the agenda and come up with a fair increase of whatever that we decide. But for progress purposes, this is the proposal that's in front of us, which officers understood was agreed. And, you know, I've attended JCCs as well. And there have been discussions about these things for a number of times. I would be quite happy to send this out to ADVA. The trade, individually, or as representative bodies, can then make recommendations, and we come back in November and make a decision.
Okay, before I take Councillor Fraser,
Can I just make a comment on it? Because I think that suggestion is a sound suggestion. The only thing I ask to consider is that from what I've seen, the new proposals are considerably higher in terms of their effect than the current proposals. And my only concern, having seen that, is that if we go out to consultation on these proposals that we've got now, which are relatively lower in cost, and then ultimately pass something that's higher in cost, we haven't really given the public a chance to comment on it. And it will be not just the trade, but the public who will be affected by this. So, and I just wonder, I was just thinking that because of the difference in the relative impact on the public of these proposals, whether that in fact either we are left really with two options. One option would be to wait to the next meeting, or otherwise to perhaps have a further meeting with the GP to consider this, where we could actually then formulate a further report, and we could have a special meeting with the GP to consider a further report, so that when
Chair, I would accept anyway, there's no exception. Because I'm telling you straight now, I've had plenty of time, and to come late this hour, it's not fair to the officers, or it's not fair to the councillors, it's not. Should have brought it well before this committee tonight. Councillor Bowles.
Just to try and finish this off, if we put it back for another month, are we certain that it would be united, that the taxes come to us again? We may end up with exactly the same situation in a month's time or 2 months' time, and then we're trying to make a decision. If they come to us united, we can make a decision. But if they're still split in some aspects, we can't make a decision. So all we're trying to do is transfer it from today to next week to the week after, waiting for the Hackney drives and so on to make their decision, rather than have it as a split one. And I sincerely hope that it will come back to us as a united group and we can discuss it then.
Right, let's get some progress here. Can you do it without a special JCC? I've got no problem calling a special meeting, as long as you cancel the special meeting, all these councillors and officers have said, council votes view that we have one vote.
This one proposal, I mean, it's very difficult to do this. My dad stood up tonight because when we go to a meeting in general, like anything, one representative, well, representative has to solve for all, and that's why Derek was basically front numbers tonight. It's not that Derek hasn't got us behind us on this proposal, it's purely that I put me down fervently because the email that was read out on no problem with that matter. But at the end of the day, yes, at times we do get fractions, but the problem being when you're fractioned is because we seriously think about things. If we didn't really seriously think about a fair rise, we'd be coming with all sorts of silly ideas. We do really take this seriously, and that's all three representatives that are here. One's not here tonight, which is quite surprising, he wasn't able to because he said he was coming, and that's Mr. Carriage. But the thing is,
I need to know the answer to this question from these members and the officers. There's no point in me asking the officers tomorrow to put a special meeting and say 2 weeks time or 3 weeks time if we're still here where we are, and that would not be good enough. So I need to know for these officers and the councillors, will there be one proposal that I set a meeting tonight, a special meeting?
yes.
Okay. Well, how many months?
Chair, I think maybe need to give consideration to the timing in terms of if we were to have a special meeting, as to whether that meeting could take place in enough time to allow the advert to go out so that you could consider it on the 7th of November, or whether you would be content to have a further special meeting should there be representations following the advert. So timing is quite crucial in that respect. And could I ask, and I think it is Margaret Collins who has put the work in on this particular matter and has had many attempts at putting forward this time. I know the trade do appreciate that. So David have said, yes, we accept what's put forward, so we do really need a commitment from the trade on this particular matter.
So now, councillor.
Sorry to come up with another question, but I'm relatively new to this committee. What I'd like to ask, and it may well have already been answered, the question, but the email that you sent out on the 10th of August and the agreement that you had for the tariffs in the report tonight, are those people going to be consulted over what you want? Is it all the, so everybody will still be consulted, they'll all be consulted again, all the taxi drivers?
It's the actual tariff is put forward by the representatives who attend the JCC.
So
they will have to, through Bob and Derek, put forward again a proposal. But I would expect, I mean, what has happened previously is, and the trader said, and a call on Margaret to put the detail into their proposal. I think it may be for the trade to actually set out so that, you know, it is clear then when we do report to you that it is purely put forward by the trade themselves, and they have, you know, configured it, put it in the table, etc., etc.
Thank you, Marcus. Comfortable.
Just to try and finalise this, while we're trying to make a decision, and if we put it back for a month or two or whatever, the Hackney drivers are going to lose money. We will have to keep it at the figures we've got at the moment, because we can't make a decision. So the longer it goes on, the drivers will have to still correspond to the figure that we've got at the moment. So at somewhere or other, they're going to lose out. But if you can get it back to us quick enough with a final decision, as I say, as one, we can make that decision. But you are going to lose money between now and whenever we make the final decision.
Can I ask the question, how quick will you come back? How quick? These councils tell me all this. I'm asking you now, what time will it take? Or if you want us to progress before Christmas, we need to know how quick will you come back.
Yeah, 2 weeks from today. That is what Councillor Bolt said before. That is a part of the process, and we would never expect the entries to come until at least November anyway because of that process. The director can give on to straight to have a special meeting to be able to sort that out for us. Thank you.
Chair, I think what's important is that the trade understand that if they come back to us in 2 weeks' time, then there has to be a period of time allowed to actually present the report and have it published. And there is obviously a requirement to have a minimum of 5 working days publication period as well. Which in effect almost brings us to the 7th of November when we next meet. But you know, that is just so the trade are aware of that. It's not a case of putting back in 2 weeks and members can sit in 2 weeks. In order to understand the timescales involved, obviously availability needs to be sourced, it needs to ensure it's not clashing with any of the committees, there are those issues to be considered.
Can I just ask you exactly what you need from the trade as in written form to show you what the trade's out there?
I think if it was you know, subject to members, I think it would be the detail as presented in the report that they have before them. So a similar table, setting out the full details of what you are asking members to consider, and subject to anything else through you, Chair, that members want to be included.
Yeah, okay, on that off Tuesday, and I can get that back to you with Derek and Danny by Friday.
Sorry,
I've just got one question, and it might never arise, but what happens if the committee meets and decide not to put the table forward for consultation? What happens then?
That is a matter for this committee, and that has happened previously. I mean, that's why you are here to decide. You may decide not to put any proposal forward and not to go to market. That is within your discretion.
well, looks like if you get back, say Friday, if you defer the item and put the officers, ask them what's the earliest possible time for them to put it all together so we can have a special meeting and approach all the three parties. Would that be